Hello, hello. Hello, and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I'm your host and Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donnie Corum. And this is the show where we discuss the mindset, tactics, and tools to become a successful foreclosure investor using the foreclosure profit system to do deals in the Colorado and Arizona markets. Today's show is going to be a doozy, man. The recent shakeup in the agent model has suggested that maybe agents are getting paid a little bit too much for their services. Not me saying it, it's NPR, but let's go over it today. Let's discuss how we feel about where the real estate market has turned for real estate agents and their income and see what you think about it. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. This is the show where we discuss how regular investors just like you can find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a foreclosure deal for an average profit of $25,000. Yes, you can do this too. Just a matter of getting started with the system. If you want to learn more about how to get involved and start doing deals right here in the Colorado or Arizona markets, just click on the link below, foreclosureprofitsystem.com. Let's discuss how you can hop into this and start making money in this crazy real estate market we're in right now. It is happening. People are making money. It's incredible. You know, we got a deal on the market right now. I just want to show it to you real quick. So I want to give you a feel for what we're working on. But this deal, we picked this thing up for $330,000. You know, let me bring up the pictures first. It's on Crimson Drive, 4550 South Crimson Drive. Let's bring up the Zillow listing and I will show it to y'all. It's going to do a lot better than me describing it. So hold tight just a second. Here we go. Share. Here we go. All right. This is Crimson Drive. My client purchased this property for $330,000. We have about $50,000 into the remodel. And now we have it listed for $434,000. Should leave a gross profit of $55,000 and a net on this in the early to mid 20s. I would say 25 to 27. So the targets are pretty well on. House came out very nice. A beautiful job of this remodel. It is fully staged. We've been in the market now for about 3 weeks, right? So things are not moving as fast as we would like, but they are staying in line with the market averages. The average in this neighborhood is still wandering about 47 days on market. So we're below that average. We're getting showing traffic. I feel very strongly this property is going to sell relatively soon. And it came out so beautifully from what it was before. Little couple hiccups in the construction system, but you know, that happens in this business. Sometimes we go a little bit longer than we intended on construction. This was the case here, but the net result was worth it. It'll be a profitable deal for my client. Congratulations to Anthony on this deal. He's already in his second deal, so he is actively working another deal in downtown area. Very proud of him and what he's doing with the foreclosure profit system, and you can do it too. Just reach out to foreclosureprofitsystem.com and let's talk about it. Okay. With that, let's hop into this agent debate. Okay. And again, not for the record, just out of the gate here, I am not anti-agent. Okay. I was an agent for over 17 years. I know the industry very well. A lot of my good buddies are agents. So as an industry, I'm a big fan of. I've always been an advocate for the industry. But I will say that when the decoupling of the commissions came up, we need to go over real quickly what actually happened there. Okay. So there was an argument that was presented by the government, antitrust, that, you know, agents were getting paid the commission. There was an assumption there was a 6% commission. That it was never written that was the assumption, but that was kind of the cultural thing. Okay. So it was built into the deal. Everybody kind of assumed that's just what it was going to be. It was never legally the case, right? The agents argued, no, we never really defined our commission. It was always negotiable. But there was an argument that the consumer didn't really understand that they didn't have to pay the full 6% commission. So in this case, they decided to decouple it, and they basically said you can't define what the agent commissions are going to be. And now that debate is starting up at NPR, where the guy Laurel Walmsley wrote this article that, for a long time, that the seller's commission was going to be split 5 to 6% of the sales price was going to be split between the buyer's agent and the seller's agents, right? These are big fees that were going to the agents. When you think about our average price home, the one I just showed you, that's listed at 434, the commissions are going to be total commissions at 6% of 434. We're talking about $26,000, give or take here, that we're looking 25 to 26 grand that would have been paid out in commissions on this deal if my clients paid the full 6% commission. And I bring this up because when I was operating at volume, you got to remember that when I was in 2020, we flipped 40 houses. In 21, we flipped 47 properties. And then 22, we flipped 45 properties with me and my team. If I was paying commissions on all those houses, it would have totaled close to $1 million I would have paid out in agent commission. I had to do something to pocket more of the deal, particularly when I was operating at volume. Right. So I negotiated a much lower rate with my agents. We hired flat fee services. We had a bunch of different ways we were able to cut the agent commissions. As it sits today, we've got a top-notch agent on the team who is listing my clients' properties for a flat fee of $2,500. And that's really what this article talks about, is how flat-fee brokers are offering an alternative. Guys, it's not that I'm anti-agent, it's that if they're taking $24,000 out of the deal, it makes it much harder for the investor who took all the risk, who bought the property, who managed the construction, who got all that process done, to then have to give up $24,000 is pretty cost prohibitive. So with my system, just out of the gate, we pay $2,500 in flat fee, and sometimes we even offer, they're mentioning that some people even offer a bonus on top of that, but we're paying a lot less for agent commissions. And the reason we're able to negotiate a better deal on the commissions is because we're doing volume. The question, and I don't want to come across like I'm anti-agent, but was the agent ever worth $24,000 in this deal? Was the process of listing the property in the MLS, okay, which is a data entry process. Again, thousands of transactions as a retail real estate agent myself, getting the photos uploaded. My average, I would say my time to get a listing onto the market was maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Was that ever worth $12,000? No, absolutely not. Now, that's not all that agents do. We know that they're also negotiating with the buyers. Ideally, they add some other value outside of the data entry, but the physical listing entry part of it, in my opinion, has always been a little bit overpriced. And the reason it has been overpriced is because if you got access to this data stream as a licensed agent, you paid your dues to be part of the board, you took your real estate exam, you should have privileges that the general public doesn't have. Are those privileges worth $12,000? That's the question, right? And on the list side, on a 400K property, that's what we would normally pay, is 3% of the deal, or 12 grand. My argument was, I'm not going to pay that. Obviously, I was a licensed agent, so I could have done it myself, but I brought an agent on my team even while I was licensed. A, I didn't want the liability, because agents do take liability for the transaction, and B, I didn't have time to manage the transaction effectively. So paying the agent to some degree for their time just made logical business sense. So we negotiated a flat fee with our team agent, and they were doing 3 to 4 deals a month. Remember, 47 transactions, that's 4 deals a month at $2,500 a pop. That's $10,000 a month, or 120 grand a year, to help us do the data entry and work with it. So it's a good living at volume. It's not a great living if you're doing one-off, and most agents are randomly bouncing from retail client to retail client. Very similar to contractors, they have gaps in their income, right? So if they don't have a deal to list immediately after the one they're in, they have this time that they're not getting paid. They got to fill those gaps by charging retail rates. And that really is kind of the justification that you could say why we pay so much in agent commissions. Because I eliminated that gap with the foreclosure profit system, we now don't have that time delay in between payment. And as a result, we can get a very professional, astute agent, which is critical to our team. Okay, I would not do this without the team agent, but we don't pay the $12,000 to $15,000 of commissions per deal because we've negotiated that discount. What I tell my clients on this is there's no way for you to do a fix and flip deal as cost effectively as it is with my system, because I've negotiated those volume discounts. And I negotiated that volume discount both here in the Colorado market, where I've been operating for 20 years, so it's pretty easy to set that up. And I've recently set up a flat fee system in the Arizona market so we can list for much less than you would normally pay. This translates into more money for you. The question is are agents being overpaid at all? Okay. And what this article is suggesting, and I'm going to post the article link here is so you guys can see it as well. But what the article is suggesting is that yes, NPR did some research and that flat fee brokerages are now becoming a little bit more modern of a concept because the agent decoupling has taken place, which has led to the discussion on the agent income. Are they being overpaid or not? So that discussion has led to a lot more flat fee guys popping up today. And I think that's good. We were doing that anyway. I was already negotiating that discount with my clients, but I tell my, people who are not my clients, if you are going to do this on your own, which I don't recommend, I would highly recommend finding a flat fee agent as opposed to paying the standard commission, because the standard commission is going to eat a lot of your profits. Okay. So there are flat fee companies out there, not quite as cheap as my current $2,500 because I've negotiated a volume discount, but substantially cheaper than the $10, $12, $15,000 you might pay to an agent for this, right? The article goes on to say that a lot of people are shopping. They're having that discussion. Higher priced homes if you're looking at a $500,000 or $1 million home, if you're talking about 3% commission on $1 million house, that's 30 grand. Okay, so already they're seeing a drop in average commissions from the 3% to 2.42 in 2023 to 2.29 in the same portion of this year, and it's dropping more in the larger volume homes. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to continue to see that trend. Agents are not going to be selling as many homes just because there's a slowdown, and they're not going to be getting paid as much per property. It's not a sign that I'm telling you to jump ship if you're an agent. It's simply to let you know that the future of the real estate agent commission is definitely going to be different than it has been in the past, and that's good and bad depending on which side of this equation that you're on. On the investor side, it's very beneficial to us to pay less because we're doing volume typically. We're not a buyer who's going to buy a home and live in it for 2 to 3 years, right? That's not the model that we're working off of. We're churning them. So we have to negotiate a better rate. And most smart agents that I've worked with are really happy to just have the consistent business. But I, of course, have presented this to very high-end agents and said, listen, I can offer you a lot of volume. They said, there's no way I could work for only $2,500. I get it, but I do think it's the future of the model. Also coming down the pike here are the larger services like Zillow and some of these aggregating data companies. Are they going to get to the listing game? And why haven't they already? Where do most consumers find their listings? They find them on services like Zillow, right? They don't have access to the MLS, so they're finding them on Redfin and Zillow and Realtor.com already. So if the consumer's finding properties on there, how long before they just start listing homes directly on there? Well, Realtor.com is supposed to be for realtors. It's called Realtor.com. So can they just cut out the listing agent entirely? Well, not and maintain their name, but a lot of the NAR's actions, National Association of Realtors, have not been very realtor friendly in recent years. So can we assume that might happen and when we start listing or flat fee listing on there? I don't know, that it's going to take longer with Realtor.com, but for Zillow, I think it's right around the corner. I think 2,500 on the list side is going to prove to be too high. I think what you're going to see is Zillow's going to do a flat fee of $1,000, maybe $1,500 for normal consumers to list their properties. They're going to get the same MLS access, the same Zillow exposure that they were getting. And really the only thing holding them back right now from doing that today, in my opinion, is the fact that agents pay so much to market their listings or market their services on Zillow now that they would be losing literally $1 billion a year if they switch to this model where they just listed homes directly on the market, because agents are not going to, pay a system that's also competing directly with them on the listing side. In theory, these are all theoretical, okay? The future is uncertain at this point, but what we know to be certain is the agent model has definitely changed. We're negotiating a lot more on the buyer's side commission. We're not allowed to assume that we're just going to pay 3%. So the agent's negotiating for it as part of the contract, and it's falling, as that article mentioned, closer to 2.5%, sometimes even 2% on the deal. And you got to keep in mind, we're professional investors here at the Foreclosure Profit System, okay? So we're not like a rookie consumer where we don't have have the negotiating skills to be really effective at reducing the commission rates. I don't want to put agents out of business, but I do want to make sure that my clients in the foreclosure profit system are maximizing their return because they're taking all the risk to do these deals. They're stepping out on faith to do that. They're doing a good job, like you saw in the Crimson property, and they deserve to get paid as much as possible. I'm not saying the agent doesn't earn their money as well. What I'm saying is I don't think they earned as much money as they've been charging in recent years. Okay, so here's the takeaway. The world is always going to be changing and dynamic. What we're doing now is we're still budgeting for the buyer agent commission at 2.5%. Obviously, if we don't have to pay that, that's all the more money to my clients. So we are taking steps to list it for much cheaper and try to find the buyer without ever working with a buyer's agent. I'll be frank with you. Dealing with buyer's agents is not always pleasant. That idea that they have to represent the best interests of the buyer, in other words, protect them from the investor, usually creates a very adversarial relationship, which is not healthy to getting a negotiation done, right? So in our experience, when we're talking to the buyer directly, we have a better experience as the seller. So agents, heed that warning. If you're a buyer's agent, yes, you got to represent the best interests of your clients. Yes, that is your job, but do so, in my opinion now, from a matter of, I want to get this deal done. The buyer wants to buy, the seller wants to sell, the agent wants to get paid, but time and time again, I'm in negotiations with agents where it really feels like they're going out of their way to kill this deal. And I've always wondered why. What's the incentive to destroy this deal? Aren't we trying to work together to get this done? That attitude is leading to a discussion on what the agent commission actually should be. Not if we need to eliminate agents entirely, but what the commission should actually be. And the numbers starting to get lower and lower because the argument is that if you're creating an adversarial relationship when we're trying to bring two people together, not separate them, why am I also paying you for that? Right? So when I was an agent, I felt the same way. I need to represent my clients to the best of my interest. But I also took the attitude, because I was often a seller, I had that perspective of an investor seller. I always worked to do what I thought was best for the seller as well as the buyer and try to get a balance in between the two. That adversarial nature is going to cut the fee structure of agents. It has already, and I think it's going to continue to do so in the years to come. As it sits today, we're trying to reduce our costs. We want the profit to go to the people who are doing the deals. So we've reduced the commission to the lowest level we can get. $2,500 is where we're at right now. We've also worked on negotiating so we can find buyers on our own, so we don't have to pay the buyer commission. We've not been as successful at that, which is proof that buyers agents are still valuable in this market as it sits today. What's the future look like? I think flat fees are coming. I think on the buy side, you're going to see a lot more flat fees. I think there's going to be an offer of commission that's just going to be, hey, we're going to offer $2,500 for somebody who brings us a buyer, but we're assuming that we're not paying a buyer's agent commission on this, right? And if you want a buyer's agent commission on it, you're welcome to add it to the purchase price. The HUD foreclosure system has been doing it that way for years. The assumption is that the buyer's side commission is zero, and you can add up to 3% to it, but it obviously lowers the net to HUD. And if that net is too low, then whoever comes in at a higher net to HUD foreclosures is going to get the deal. So if the agent gets greedy, it could affect the buyer's ability to buy the property, right? It's not a question of worth, it's a question of what the market will pay. And the market is starting to say that they want to pay less and less to buyer's agents. And this article is living proof that that's the future, that's going to be the trend. I'm excited by it because it means more profit for me on my flips, more profit for my clients, but I'm worried that the industry, if it doesn't convert right now, it's definitely not going to look the same in a couple of years. And in a lot of cases may work themselves in a non-existence. It's unlikely that we're going to be completely without real estate agents. So I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is the structure is going to change, much like some lawyers charge a flat fee for their services, some charge for the case, right? So if you have a DUI, I'm going to charge a flat $10,000 for your DUI case, right? And other lawyers, charge a percentage of their winnings. You get the lawyers that work on a commission, right? So different types of pay models are going to pop up, and smart agents are going to understand that when working with investors, you're going to want to keep your fees low because you get a good investor or investor group like we have the foreclosure profit system. It can turn into a lot of revenue, although it is going to be a lot of deals to get there. All right. So that's kind of our show for today. And not the most exciting thing, but I will say that change is good. And if you're focused on the fact that the market is going to operate different tomorrow than it does today, then you're going to try to anticipate that change. My whole job as the owner and founder of the foreclosure profit system is anticipate what the market is going to do next and how it can profit for my clients, right? So I am representing my client's best interest, just like an agent. The difference is I'm representing them I'm not listing the property because I'm not a licensed agent, right? But I am representing them from an investment angle, like an investment advisor should. I want to see my clients make as much money as possible, and that means cutting out as much unnecessary expense as we can. That includes finding cheaper prices on our parts at Home Depot, finding better labor rates during the construction. We work to get a hold open policy on every deal so we can reduce our title fees, right? We get better deals on photography, staging, etc. So everything is bundled up, and the reason why people pay so much upfront for the foreclosure profit system is because there's no way for you to do a more cost-effective flip than with my system. Like I can promise you, doing this on your own will never be as cost effective as doing it with this system. You're going to make more money per deal, and you get the advice of over 100 years of combined experience from my team to help guide you, navigate you through the deal. It just doesn't make sense to do it on your own. This is one of those areas where now that agent commissions are coming down, everybody's starting to benefit from that reduction in the real estate world. We've already been doing that for several years with the foreclosure profit system because I negotiated the best deals on that up front to make sure my clients can make more money on each deal. So that's the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope that you'll join me each and every single week. We'll be back next week to discuss the real estate market and what's happening in the foreclosure space. And, stay tuned. A lot of cool stuff is happening between Arizona and the Colorado markets. I think you're going to be excited about the deals that we're doing now. Congratulations to my clients who are already doing deals and benefiting from this market as it starts to recover in the wonderful spring and summertime right here in the Rockies. And fourth quarter, we'll be fully operational in the Arizona market, doing deals in Phoenix. I just bought a great place in Scottsdale. For those of you who are tired of the cold, come visit me down in Scottsdale, man. You can crash on my couch. We can hang out for a little bit. I'll show you what's happening in that marketplace. I think you'll be super surprised. A lot of money to be made down there as well. With that, this is Donnie Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.